Good afternoon and welcome to the NextCycle Michigan Recycling Innovation and Technology Challenge Track webinar. Today we will provide in-depth information on the accelerator program that is designed to foster material recovery and recycled contact product ideas into shovel-ready and investable projects. I am Melissa Radwan. I'm the Director of Marketing for RS, and I'll be your host today. I have a few housekeeping items to go over before we get started. First, all attendees are muted, so we can't hear you, but we want to hear from you. So use the Q&A button to submit questions for our panel. Note that the Q&A button is different than the chat button. We want to see your questions, and the Q&A function allows us to see it in an organized fashion. You can start sending your questions over immediately and at any time throughout our session today. Finally, we are recording this webinar, and we'll share a link with all registrants. So if you want to play back a portion of the session or share with a colleague, that link will be emailed to you next week. Our agenda today will begin with an opening statement from the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, also known as EGLE. Next, we'll hear about the Recycling Innovation and Technology Track, what it is, how participants can benefit, criteria, eligibility, all the good stuff that you're here for. And finally, we'll have our panelists turn on their cameras and mics, and we'll open it up for a roundtable style Q&A section. First off, I'd like to welcome Matt Flechter. Matt is a recycling market development specialist at Michigan EGLE, and for 20 years, maybe over 20 years, he has assisted recycling programs by growing the Michigan supply chain, so the valuable commodities that businesses need to make their way from curb to new products actually happen. He was a longtime member of the Michigan Recycling Coalition Board of Directors and the former chair of the Mid-America Council of Recycling Officials. Matt, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Melissa. Yeah, where we go. Man, I'm so excited to be here today. Glad this group is on. What better day than to do this on my birthday when I'm about to go in a car with my family up to the Sleeping Bear Dunes. And so today, talking about recycling and innovation and this technology track that's being developed has been such a long time coming to get to this spot. There's been so much work behind the scenes to get us here, to create this new and innovative way to attract communities and businesses to grow Michigan. Hey, there's a little, I got music behind me. That's good. To grow Michigan's recycling supply chain, to create Michigan's circular economy. The work that we're doing, the work that all of you are doing is so very important to achieving Michigan's goals of tripling our recycling rate. And we're doing that for two main reasons. One, first, we know that there are direct impacts to our climate, positive impacts, if we manage materials differently. So as Michigan works toward a low carbon economy, we have the tools necessary to decarbonize by creating systems where we can manage materials differently. And we're doing it equitably. We're making sure that all communities, all businesses, all parts of Michigan have access to the technical resources and the funding necessary to get there. Two important, those two things are really driving us, driving the work that we're doing. And then also showing those results where recycling is important for the economy and the environment, and being able to tell those stories, those localized stories of innovative ideas to move through the process. Man, we couldn't do it without you, and we couldn't do it without this team. So I just want to welcome all of you to this webinar today, and I'm glad you're here.
Thank you, Matt, and happy birthday.
Thank you.
And don't worry, Matt, it's going to be back again during our roundtable Q&A. So again, be sure you're submitting your questions. Use the Q&A button on the nav bar. Next up is Megan Weed. She's an analyst with RRS. Megan conducts research, data analysis, modeling, and other project support for corporate entities and sustainable communities. She is currently supporting the NextCycle Michigan initiative and helping to develop and facilitate several of the Innovation Challenge tracks. Today, she's going to walk us through the who, what, where, when, how, and why of the Recycling Innovation and Technology track. Megan, let's hear about it.
Awesome. Thanks, Melissa, for that intro. So yeah, I'm going to give some more background and details into the RIT Challenge Track, which is presumably why you're all here. So the RIT Challenge Track program is essentially an accelerator program for recycling innovation. It's a short-term program designed to really boost recycling, reuse, composting businesses and other groups that have some sort of recycling, processing, collection technology. So the idea is really to help grow those early or growth mid-stage companies that are innovating in the recycling space. So the way the program does this is through providing one-on-one consulting help, individualized business plans. There's a lot of different ways that the RIT track is really trying to get teams that come into the track ready for funding, get them ready to get to the next stage. So, through the RIT track, teams can get partnerships, can get connected to feedstock or material partners, and get help with a variety of things. So prototyping, a new design, lab testing, market or customer validation. It's really a range depending on what the team is coming in and what they're looking to do. So it's an accelerator program. It's really, really exciting to be focused on recycling technology and trying to get those teams ready for investment. So there's also investment opportunities throughout the track. And it's called a challenge track because teams are being challenged to innovate, right? So there's 6 tracks, RIT is one of them in the NextCycle sphere. So, RIT is specifically focused on novel solutions in recycling. And Dan, at the end of this segment, is going to talk more about some example projects and how NextCycle Michigan can help those projects and teams grow. But in general, think recycling innovation for this track. So, technologies sort of anywhere along the recycling supply chain, including source reduction, waste minimization, and market development, things like that. If it's already a proven technology, for example, you are a MRF and you're just looking to add an optical sorter, so it's a proven technology, that's not quite the fit for RIT. We're looking for something that's a little bit different, a little bit maybe cutting edge. So there are other opportunities if this isn't quite the right track for your team. Something like an optical sorter would fit into the recycling supply chain track. So plenty of opportunities outside of this track as well. So in terms of the timeline and kind of the setup of the track, we're today doing this webinar. Next week, the application is going to open. So the application for teams is fairly short. We're really asking teams to kind of pitch your business, pitch your project idea, and then, tell us what you need to get to the next step. So, the application is designed to be pretty easy to fill out. The process will be that the application will be reviewed by an internal NextCycle Michigan team, and then it will go on to we have a really awesome panel of industry experts that's going to do a second review on all of these applications. So after these 2 groups do that review process, there's about 8 teams or so that are going to be selected for the RIT track, and they'll be notified sometime in September is the plan. So during this, so that's kind of getting into the track. Once a team is in the track, the first kind of event will be a networking event, so you can hear from all the teams, see what everyone is doing, meet some investors and some other partners. The next piece of it is this multi-day boot camp that will happen the second week of November. The boot camp is really a highlight of this accelerator program. It's a chance, really to connect with other teams, but really to get workshops, to talk to industry experts, to get more tools, things like pitch practice to really get you set up to, go after more investment and things like that. So that's a really exciting event that's a part of this track. So that's a big reason you'd want to enter this track. And then the track culminates with the pitch competition in January. So that's an opportunity to pitch for some funding, actually. So speaking of funding, it's important to note with this track that there is no funding upon acceptance into the track, which is a little bit different than other accelerator programs. So just because you get into the track, there's no upfront funding and there's no guarantee of funding. With that being said, there's a lot of really exciting opportunities for funding. So one of them is, like with these events, is that direct connection with investors, venture capital groups, other people that are investing in this recycling space, which is really exciting. And then the other funding opportunity, and I think Matt can speak a little bit more about this later, is that EGLE has these recycling and marketing and infrastructure grants that are ongoing and open to people outside of the challenge tracks. But there's going to be a grant pool of money that is just for the 8 teams that get into this RIT track. So there's a separate challenge track pool of funding. So only if you get into the program can you apply for this other funding. So that's kind of the difference there. And we can talk about that more in the round table. And then, like I said, there's that pitch competition money. In terms of who this track is for, I've talked a little bit about early stage and growth stage teams, but it's really for, kind of any entity with a really investable business idea. So whether it's an individual or a startup or business, those are all eligible for the tracks. A university group that might have a novel, plastics processing technology, that would be eligible. And then a big emphasis of NextCycle Michigan in general, and especially of this track too, is partnerships. So to the extent possible, if you have a team that has, this really awesome recycling technology, can you get a city in Michigan to sign on to support, or can you get a lab group that's going to help you test your project? To the extent possible that you can show that you have some partnerships, or if you don't have partnerships, you can reach out to us and we can help make those partnerships. But those partnerships are also really key to applying to this program. So if you're an out-of-state team, especially, this program is Michigan materials based. So having a Michigan partner will be really helpful to be eligible for this program. And then NextCycle Michigan is also really emphasized and focused on diversity, equity, inclusion. So, with your project team, to the extent possible that you can show that you have a diverse staff, a diverse or inclusive, leadership or mentorship or board or partners, that's a really important goal of this work and this track. So in terms of the minimum eligibility, so nothing into criteria in terms of how projects would rank, but just basically to get into the program, the minimum eligibility is really that you're working to divert materials from disposal in Michigan. So for example, if you're a startup that has a phone app that you take a picture and it tells residents where the material can be recycled, awesome, definitely an RIT candidate, but you have to be able to show that that work is going to be done in Michigan, that the material that you're going to divert is in Michigan. So, you know, like I had said previously, like if you're an out-of-state team, that might mean that you're partnering with Michigan city or feedstock supplier or something like that. So that's a really important part of this program. It's, you know, funded by Michigan's EGLE department. So we want to see the diversion happen in the state. And then really the key, like I kind of mentioned earlier, is that there's something new, something a little bit different about your process or technology in the recycling space. And finally, minimum eligibility is that it's a project that can be scaled, can be invested in. It's something that, you know, if you got funding, it's not just going to live in your house or your neighborhood. It's something that can really grow and expand and to lead to bigger impacts. So just to review before I hand it over to Dan to talk a little bit more about project specifics, you know, the eligible teams are individuals, businesses, research groups, university groups, things like that. Partnerships are important. And then in terms of, you know, business stage, we're looking at early to mature staged businesses and projects. So, you know, it has to be past the I have a great idea phase, but so there has to be another piece beyond just I have an idea, but it can definitely be in that sort of earlier stage of development. And then it could also be a mature business that's doing something recycling. So a mature business in construction that, for example, is making a new product out of recycled plastic films would be something where they're a mature business, but they're eligible because new project for process in Michigan. And then material stream, you know, it can be traditional recyclables, aluminum, glass, cardboard, etc. It could be organics, food waste, yard waste. It can be other things, you know, solar panels, other electronics, textiles, things like that. So quite a big range in this track in terms of the material stream that's eligible. And then really just the last thing is that the RIT is this novel technology. So I'm going to leave it there and I'll pass it on to Dan to talk more about these projects.
Thank you, Megan. I'm going to break in really quick here and I want to introduce Dan so people know who the heck we're talking about. Dan Radomski. He serves as the Executive Director of the Lawrence Technological University Centropolis Accelerator. It's a program that helps accelerate and scale small manufacturers and innovators of new hardware physical products. He has experience in private industry commercializing clean energy technologies and sustainable materials with both startups and established firms. Sounds like a perfect fit for this track. So Dan, I believe you're going to talk a little bit about some project examples so we can get our head around what types of ideas we're talking about here.
Yeah, Melissa, thanks, Megan. Thanks for having me involved in today's webinar and the program. So yeah, our role, we're a smart zone incubator that's supported by EGLE in the state of Michigan through the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. And one of our key objectives is to help bring new technologies to market, including recycling, circular economy related innovations. So while we have an increasing attention towards you know, solving our waste issues here, not only in the state of Michigan, but more broadly the nation, it's really important that we look to apply advanced technologies and innovations to help support, whether it's recycling technologies, upcycling technologies, even alternative and you know, natural sustainable materials as a replacement of certain materials that are hard to recycle and typically go to landfill. So our role is to really try to help the program, you know, look at the innovators that are already here in Michigan providing some of these solutions, as well as outside the state, that we can partner with Michigan companies and communities that can solve some of the issues that we have today and try to divert, you know, waste streams from landfill. So here's an example of, you know, some of the companies we're working with today, some of the technology providers that are looking at NextCycle Michigan as a way to either support the development of their technology or proving out of their technology, or for that matter, just scale their operations. And I think textile waste is a really good one. To Megan's point, there's obviously abundance of textile waste and many ways to potentially, reutilize that material. So cotton textiles, for instance, can be upcycled, and we already have companies here in the state that will shred that material and use it in, new insulation for buildings, for instance. There's also companies that have innovative technologies that'll take cotton-based waste and convert it back into felt that can be used in apparel manufacturing. And then there's synthetic polymer-based textiles where there's technologies that can recycle those back into fabric that can be, spun and used in apparel manufacturing, as well as technologies that can recycle that material back into injection molding compounds. So the NextCycle Michigan program can look at all of these potential businesses and technologies to help support feasibility assessments, pilot work, proof of concepts, scaling of their business, especially if they're utilizing waste streams, textile waste streams right here in our state of Michigan. So these are good examples. Next. We also had, give you an idea, a really unique technology developer that came to us had a unique solution for taking wood waste, and through a all natural, non-petroleum based binder, could convert that back into wood products by molding it into shapes that could go right back into furniture or into picture frames or auto interior parts. So what's great about the NextCycle Michigan program is we can work with the technology developer in this space, in the recycling space, and naturally connect to them to companies that have that waste stream right here in Michigan. So the program, in this case, connected that company to some of the major furniture manufacturers who have waste streams, wood waste streams, and also partnering them with extrusion and molding equipment companies that could convert their waste back into parts that they could use in their furniture line, or could be utilized in a wide variety of other products. So these are examples. There's many more as we look into glass and polymers and a wide variety of waste streams that where technology can be partnered with Michigan businesses and communities to solve waste streams by either recycling, upcycling their materials back in and diverting them from landfills. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan. Very helpful to start to understand what types of projects. Understandably, these were just two examples, and there's an infinite amount of ideas out there in the world. But now I'd like to welcome all of our panelists, turn on their videos, and we're going to start the roundtable Q&A portion of our session today. I'd also like to remind everybody that they can submit their questions via the Q&A button. Just look on your nav bar within the Zoom meeting here, and there should be a little speech bubble that says Q&A. Click on that, enter in your questions, and it will pop up on my screen, and I can ask our panelists. We're going to go ahead and stop sharing the slide deck so that you can see all of our faces large and in charge. And I am going to let you know I'm working on two screens here, so you may see the side of my head on occasion. But what I would like to start with, Dan, you work with Centropolis Accelerator. Some folks might not be completely knowledgeable of what an accelerator does, but can you tell us how NextCycle Michigan, similar to an accelerator, how that can help advance material recovery ideas in Michigan?
Yeah, thanks. So the basic function of an accelerator is to take a company that has technology and help them commercialize that technology and scale their operations so they can be a major employer and solve a particular problem. In the area of recycling, this is really looking at those that have innovations that we can support through the NextCycle Michigan programs. NextCycle Michigan, especially the RIT track, is definitely an accelerator program. So what we're looking for is either those that have the technology and are looking for partners that have the waste streams and are in that kind of value chain of handling textile waste or glass waste or tire waste or polymer waste, and connect them with all the right parties. And this is what an accelerator does: go to market channel partners, waste stream partners, communities, R&D partners. There's many things in accelerating a business, and that's sometimes finding a partner that will help with the proof of concept work, research and development partners for testing and validation. Sometimes that's our own universities right here in our backyard, or independent test labs. And then obviously if a company's a little bit younger in age, they typically even need help with putting some shape around their project, finding other team members, and raising funding, which this program offers. But the accelerator program, the way we've designed Recycling Innovation Technology Challenge, is to also look to outside entities that would be interested in investing in the company, investing in the projects, to really help support not only demonstrations, but scaling of these businesses, so we can divert more waste streams from landfill here in Michigan. Thanks.
Awesome. Yeah, and Dan, you mentioned funding, and Megan touched on funding earlier, and that it isn't a guarantee with this track that that there's funding, but we talked about that there's pools, there's dedicated grants that are potentially going to be available. Matt, I wanted to just get a better idea of touching on that funding, and what does that look like going forward?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, first of all, there is funding available that when we're very fortunate in Michigan to have funding opportunities that not all states have, and we're really working to leverage private and public sector dollars to increase that level of investment so we can accelerate Michigan's recycling industry as quickly as we can to get to that goal of tripling the recycling rate. And we know that there will be about $8 million injected into projects over the next year for recycling innovation, for supply chain, for growing our end use markets, for increasing infrastructure for collection and processing. So being selected into this track offers you the opportunity to get your project ready and to be funded through a number of places. But most importantly, speaking from EGLE's perspective, we want to get projects funded through this process. And we also have a shovel-ready process for teams that are interested in applying today for funding. And that getting to one of the questions in the Q&A for the rest of the team, wanted to answer that specifically right here. And there's an RFP out on the street right now, a request for proposals through EGLE, and maybe we could drop the link into there for those teams that are looking at applying. And there's a couple of deadlines coming up. And so if you have a shovel-ready idea that you think you're ready to invest your public or private sector dollars to support that growth, we encourage you to apply. And if you've got an idea that needs a little bit more incubation and acceleration, support, data, analysis, funding, pitch, all of the things that Megan talked about, please apply through this. And so what I want to make sure everybody on this webinar, or whoever's listening to this webinar, knows is there are multiple places to enter, and it's not just one door. You can apply to both, and we are looking to support teams at whatever stage you're in, because ultimately we need you to be successful if we're going to achieve those goals. We want to grow those opportunities all the way through the supply chain. So that's where we're at with funding and the current RFP.
Great, and I believe we just put a link in the current RFP available from EGLE. We put that in the chat box for folks, so you can click through on that and learn more about that. One of the key questions, and I think because we've done a couple of these webinars on different tracks for NextCycle Michigan, and Megan, I'm going to throw this one at you, is what makes a good application? People are going to be looking at this, and obviously there's certain bits of information that folks have to provide, but what makes a good application? Give some people an inside scoop on how they can be selected here.
Yeah, that's a great question, Melissa. And I think there's a couple different aspects to, you know, what pieces really kind of stand out in an application. You know, I think one of the things first off the bat is just your value proposition. You know, what are you pitching? What's the, you know, what's the material? What's the potential impact? You know, and is this a project that can grow? And, you know, through this accelerator process, if we are assisting your team, you know, can we really see you getting to the next stage and getting that project really moving? So I think that value proposition is the, you know, that your business pitch is the first, you know, kind of key. And I think the other thing for, you know, a challenge track, an accelerator application versus say if you're just applying to a grant program is, you know, tell us what you have done, tell us what you are good at, what you're working on, and then tell us what you still need to work on. You know, this is an earlier stage, so it's okay to say, you know, we haven't done market validation, but that's what we want to get out of this track. So, you know, tell us your known pieces and tell us what you're still trying to work on and build off of. So I think those are kind of a key difference than maybe if you're just applying to a grant and you're saying, I'm perfect, we've got it all together, I know what I'm doing. You know, you can come in and say, I've got these pieces, but I really need help to get these pieces. So I think that's part of it. And then I think the other thing for NextCycle Michigan in general is this triple bottom line. You know, this is an EGLE program. It's really, we're really looking at diversion. Like, how are you keeping stuff out of the landfill, out of disposal? Those environmental impacts, you know, Matt was talking about climate impacts. So if there's anything else in your process that's not just tons or pounds being diverted, but air pollution or greenhouse gas emissions, you know, to the extent possible, mention those. And then, you know, equity impacts. Where in the state is this project going to take place? Is it going to be in a community that might not have access to recycling? You know, that's a really important piece of NextCycle Michigan. And then the third triple bottom line impact is economic. So, you know, you might be small right now, but can this lead to job growth and development? You know, are you going to be hiring next year? Can this really help Michigan's economy grow too?
Wonderful. And there was a question that came through regarding 501c3 nonprofit organizations. I just wanted to make sure, in case there's anybody else who's listening, yes, those organizations are eligible to apply. Again, the key is having investable or scalable technologies process for material diversion in Michigan. So absolutely, there's not many limitations on who can apply. So please make sure you are checking out the website. I'll mention again, nextcyclemichigan.com. That will have a ton of information and the ability for folks, especially those of you who are sending over some specific questions that are getting down into some details on your ideas, instead of discussing them at large here, please set up an appointment to talk one-on-one with one of the NextCycle Michigan reps, and they can dig down deeper into what you're specifically looking at. That's available again on the website, nextcyclemichigan.com. And you can schedule an appointment, you can email, you're going to get a hold of us. So check out the website. I am going to go to Dan next. Let's say I'm an out-of-state team. How can I find a Michigan partner to be eligible for this program?
Yeah, and I think I really like to applaud Matt and his team at EGLE and RRS for seeing vision that while this is very much a program about diversion and improving our waste handling here in the state of Michigan, we smartly made this available for innovators no matter where they reside in the world. So we've cast a pretty broad net looking for the best recycling, upcycling technologies in the world. And if you're out of state, you can still qualify, but you must be solving a Michigan-based waste problem and specifically be partnering with somebody that is in that value chain that would support the diversion of that waste from Michigan landfills, right? So we've been working with many companies in Europe, in Asia, Silicon Valley, and of course, right here in our home state, that are very interested in working with companies. And we've been going out of our way, working closely with our staff to identify partners. So even the example I brought up of the wood waste, that company was from Israel. We connected them to local furniture manufacturers, and now they're working on a project that would be suitable for the Recycling Innovation Technology Challenge.
Awesome.
I'd like to add to that, Melissa, if that's okay.
Go right ahead, yes.
So Michigan has a long history of being a leader in this space. We had some of the first curbside recycling programs in the country. We had one of the first deposit laws in the world. We've got technology and innovation at our core in the state. We've got furniture manufacturing, automotive manufacturing, manufacturing happening in the renewable energy space. So it only makes sense that we would also be that place where a business who is looking to grow their idea would come to Michigan. And we have that structure, we have that culture, and we have the dollars to invest to get us there. So come on, let's do this.
Yeah, I think that's great. I was just going to add on. So the bottom line is, if you're out of state and you've got the right idea, just reach out to the NextCycle Michigan team. We will work our darndest to get you hooked up with the right partners. So don't fret if you don't come into it with the right Michigan team partners.
Absolutely.
One question that did pop up, and I'm just going to open it up for anybody who would like to answer, is we talk about 8 teams being selected for the track, but I'm going to guess there's going to be more than 8 teams that apply for the track. So we don't want to ignore those other teams that may not be selected. Is there any plan for how to continue the conversation with those that may not be selected for the track, but still have some really good ideas?
Yeah, let me jump in first, and I think it might be good to, Dan, you could talk about your specific experience how you support different teams through this process, even your accelerator space. But what we're looking to do here in Michigan is create that pipeline of ideas. And to do that, you all need to, if you're on this webinar, you've got an idea, you're thinking about how you're going to grow your business or your community idea or this innovative process that's in place. But you need to see you need to have clarity in process. That's why there are multiple tracks. That's also why there are multiple windows of opportunity. So this will be done again. So there's going to be somebody, I guarantee it might even be somebody on this call that does not get selected in, but they will get selected into the next time, because there will be, there's going to be feedback. You weren't selected because of these reasons. You've made this connection. You create this additional partnership. You're getting to that next stage, and then the next track that comes along, you apply again. You're more ready and have even greater potential at that point, and can be supported through the process at that point. So know that this is a long-term process, that it's not one and done. It's not, this is it, and you miss it and it's all is over. We are very much interested in helping support a team no matter where they're at.
Yeah, and I think I just wanted to build off what Matt's saying here, and talking about the pipeline and the whole NextCycle Michigan process. Not only is the idea that this wouldn't be the only RIT track round, that there would be potentially another one in the future that you could, get a little bit more ready and be able to get into that one. But also there's also on the other end, there's the micros program as well, which is essentially like a $10,000 grant that's pretty flexible in funding. So, maybe you're not track ready, but maybe you're ready enough to get funding for a feasibility study or something like that through micros. And then that funding would get you to be ready for one of these other challenge tracks. So I think the end of the day point is that You're not done and out of the NextCycle Michigan world if you don't get into, into this track, that there's other opportunities that exist.
And Dan, did you want to add on to that at all?
Yeah, only to add that for those that submit applications, we're, even if we are a little bit limited on which projects can be funded, those that do submit, we are going to not only provide feedback, but where we can, if the company applying or community applying needs a certain partner in order to be more qualified for a future RIT track or another track or a micros program, then we're going to commit to doing that. So our support is, to Matt's point, is incubator at that point is to really think through how we can help take your idea and get it more ready for a funded project, even if that's in the future. So we'll commit to that.
So bottom line is you got to get your applications in. And so Megan, we're getting close to our 45-minute mark, which we're wrapping it up. We wanted it short and sweet today, but to the point and impactful. And I think we've covered that. But Megan, I'd like to give you an opportunity to hit on a couple of the key dates again, reinforce the resources that are available right now for folks. And then I'll come back and wrap us up. So if you could take us through the next couple of slides.
Yeah, thanks, Melissa. So yeah, like I had mentioned before, the application is opening very soon. So it'll be open next week on the NextCycle Michigan webpage. You'll see a little apply bar. You can also go to the RIT. You'll be able to find the apply button. And then there's kind of two things. There's this application packet, which will be, kind of a 7 or so page PDF that kind of gives you all of what we just ran through today about eligibility, about criteria, what the applications are going to be reviewed on. And, it'll have a basic outline of all of the application questions. So I'd really use that packet as a reference. And then you're going to have to fill out the application. It is through an online portal. The link is right there on that apply page, so you'll be able to find that. But you'll have the PDF packet to refer to, and then the application is the online portal is how you will fill out and finally submit your application. And that online portal is pretty easy to use. You can save as you go, which is really awesome that you don't have to fill it all out in one go. So that's great. And as a reminder on dates, applications are due August 11th. So yeah, keep that date in mind. So you should have plenty of time to fill that application out. It's not that long. And then in terms of resources, we've talked a little bit about this before, but really that NextCycle Michigan email, we respond to it. We will answer your questions. We will get you to the right person. And then the other cool resource that is on the RIT page. So if you go to NextCycle Michigan, then the RIT page, under next steps, there's this area where you can schedule a one-on-one. So we just schedule directly into our calendars a one-on-one meeting so that you can talk through, hey, I'm working on this project. Does this fit into RIT? How do I write about this? Answer all of your application and track questions. So those are the two great resources. So I think that's all that I had.
Okay, Megan, I thank you much for giving us those few key elements and resources that our audience should know about. That is our time for the day. I want to give a big thank you to our panelists for providing great information, and a huge thank you to our audience for taking the time to learn about the RIT, which is the Recycling Innovation and Technology Challenge Track. Now you've heard that the application period is opening up June 30th. That is just a few days away. So please go check out the website. Again, that's nextcyclemichigan.com. You'll find more information on the program. You can reach out and connect, as Megan just told you about, and really just kind of discuss what idea do you have, and can NextCycle be the initiative that's going to help you get it there. So, and with that, on behalf of NextCycle Michigan and our panelists, I'd like to wish you all a great day. Thanks so much for joining us.